everybody, and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today I'm going to be talking about a very intriguing mechanic that we see not too frequently, but we see sometimes, and it's always in a very similar context, but it's been implemented in somewhat different ways across the board. Very, very exciting. The actual mechanic itself is tableau building. Now, what do I mean by that? By a tableau, I mean you've got cards, you've got tiles, you've got some kind of something or other that you're putting in front of you and saying, this is mine. I'm building this city, I'm building this section, I am building this station, whatever it is, and these are the features that my area has. Now, a lot of times we'll see synergy amongst them, whether it's because you pick a specific role and you get something from having them, or they're close together and so you get some kind of a bonus. They're far away, they're surrounded by other tiles, all sorts of different stuff. So a lot of the strategy with these games can come from how you actually physically put your tableau together. Because sometimes it's better than other times, and you know, it's really cool. It's a very, very interesting thing. I really like it as a mechanic, at least typically, and I'm very, very excited to talk about it. I will mention a little bit about pros and cons and stuff like that as I go through the different games, but with that, I hope that you enjoy it. We'll go ahead and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got a game here that is actually my personal favorite in terms of the theme for it. And the reason being that it is all about science. The game itself is Strain. Now, this is a game where the whole point is that you're actually building cells, right? So you got a little card that represents a cell, you put it down, and then you put cards around it to represent the cell. That is your tableau. You are building out the cell. I really love this game because it's got a lot of cool features to it. First off, you can learn a little bit about science. You can learn about what are called organelles, which are the different parts of the cell. You can learn at least abstractly what they do and how they work. The other thing you can do is there's some really good player interaction. You've got things like viruses that you can actually use to attack your opponents and all this kind of stuff. It's a really, really interesting game because you've got both attack and defense. You can actually have organelles that are designed as defensive organelles rather than, for example, just giving you more ATP so you can put down more things in your tableau, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool little game. The reason that it's so low on the list, even though thematically it's my absolute favorite, is because it has a relative simplicity to it. Now, all of the games I'm going to be talking about have some degree of simplicity because we're talking about tableau building. It's not a very complex thing, but in that context, Strain is actually the lowest on that list. There is very little synergy amongst the cards after you put them down. For example, putting down some specific card doesn't typically give you some kind of a bonus from another card. You do have little action cards that give you like temporary instant bonuses and things like that. But by and large, there is not a lot strategically other than find a good thing, put down good thing. And, you know, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly valid. That's a great way to play. But at the same time, I like to see a little bit more. But again, thematically is really the biggest reason that this is on my list. It's a ton of fun. It's a great little game. Strain, my number 5. At number 4, I've got a game that I have talked about numerous times in a different context, mostly. And the context I've talked about this in is actually in the role picking. And the interesting thing about this game is that the role picking and the tableaus are actually very interconnected. The game itself is Citadels. Citadels is a really cool little game where the idea is that you've got cards that represent the buildings or you know, the different areas of a city or what have you that you put down, and that is your tableau. That's how you build it up. But the cool thing is that the roles synergize with the tableaus. So for example, if you pick the bishop is blue, and then when you pick the bishop and you say, yes, I'm the bishop, then you get money for any religious buildings that you have in your tableau, which is really great because if you played this game, you know money can be very, very tight. It can be very difficult to get some, and you know, to try to save up can be very tough. But if you do it right, if you've got a decent number of buildings, if you get the right roll, then you can get boosts monetarily. The other thing is that the tableaus at the end of the game, you not only get bonus points for completing your tableau first, but if you've got all the different colors as well. So there is a decent amount of strategy just in terms of how you play, not how you place them down, but what exactly you're placing down, and to an extent when you place it down. Now the next two games I'm going to talk about really have a lot of relation to the actual physical location of the cards, but this one doesn't really do that. This one is just more about, do you have the card, yes or no? So it's still a really fun game. I love it for the role picking. I also love it for the tableau building. It's a wonderful game on both those fronts, but similarly to Strain, there is slightly less strategy involved, particularly with the building of your tableau and how they interact with one another. But either way, it's a wonderful game. Citadels, my number 4. At number 3, I have a game that I unfortunately do not own myself, but I have talked about in a relatively similar context before, and that is Among the Stars. Among the Stars is a really great tableau building game that obviously takes place in outer space. You're trying to build a space station, and the thing with this game is that you have a lot of synergy amongst the cards depending on how they're placed. If they're adjacent to one another, if they're diagonal to one another, if you've got more than one of them, then they can then they sometimes synergize, all this kind of stuff. One of the great things about this, there's a ton of expansions, so you have a lot of variety going on. It's a really, really great game. The thing is, I've only played it a couple of times. I really do enjoy it, and I mean, it's the other two games are really only higher because I enjoy them slightly more. Among the Stars is a tremendous game. It's a lot of fun, and if you haven't played it, I just highly recommend that you do. It is a great example of a good quality tableau builder that combines the strategy of picking what to play, but also when to play it and where to play it. So you get a lot of different strategy there. As far as interaction with other players, there is a little bit, but not too much. Citadels actually has a decent bit of interaction because of the way that the roles work. Among the Stars has some, but not very much, and really that's the only reason why it's slightly lower on the list, but it's still a wonderful game, absolutely amazing tableau builder. Among the Stars, my number 3. At number 2 is the other game on this list that I unfortunately do not own, and it's another one where the placement of the cards is, in this case, really more important than actually what you're placing down. The game itself is Viceroy. Viceroy is a tremendously fun game that combines a lot of different mechanics with it. The two major things that it has is it's got an auction mechanic to it with a secret bidding, and then it also has the tableau building. The great thing about the tableau building, though, like I just mentioned, is that a lot of it heavily depends on the relative locations of the cards. Oh, excuse me. A good example of this is in the corner of each card, in every corner as well as on the top, there are colored circles, or part of colored circles. Oh, excuse me. And the way that it works is at the end of the game, if you have a full colored circle that is a single color, you get bonus points. So in that sense, placing the cards next to each other correctly, properly, all that kind of stuff really comes into play heavily. The other thing is the actual structure you're building is a pyramid. So you, depending on which level you put the card at, you get a different bonus. It also costs more to put a card higher up, as it should. But again, at the same time, the whole point is that you have to make a decision of what bonus or bonuses you would like. And the other thing is, if you want to build it higher up, if you want to put it at a higher tier, you have to make certain that you've got the base structure to support that card. And it's tremendously fun. It's very, very well done. The interaction is good. I love the auction mechanic with the blind bidding. And the other thing you have is at the end of the game, or during the game, depending, you've got the ability to attack people. You get like little sword tokens, and at the end of the game, you essentially stab people and try to take their points away unless they have a shield. So in that sense, the interaction is not great. The only major part of the interaction is when everybody is bidding simultaneously. But in this case, I don't really miss the interaction because there's so much going on with your own thing. And it's like you really need to plan it out very, very well. Even if you might not get the exact card that you want from the auction, it's still a lot of fun. It's still just a very well-designed game. I have a tremendous amount of fun with it. Viceroy, my number 2. At number 1, we've got a game that is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's actually one of the first games that I ever played and purchased. That's a fun little bit of trivia for you. The game itself is Race for the Galaxy. Yes, we are racing for the galaxy. Now, yeah, sure, Roll for the Galaxy could have gone here as well, but I am a fan of the original more so than I am the sequel, or whatever you want to call it. Race for the Galaxy is... it's great on so many levels. This is one of the games that you've got really good interaction with players. A lot of this game is based around reading the other players, trying to figure out what they are going to do so that you can either not do it but still take advantage of it, or just try to figure out like, okay, well, should I just jump on board them or should I do it myself so I get the bonus, all this kind of stuff. Because at the same time, you want to figure like, okay, well, they're probably going to do this. I don't want to help them, so maybe I should do something else that doesn't help me as much just so I can piggyback on them, all that kind of stuff. In that sense, the interaction is great. There is interaction. I've only got the first 3 expansions, which are the, what is it? The Brink of War, Rebel versus Imperium, and Gathering Storm. Gathering Storm, I believe, is the other one. I got them out of order, but those are the 3 that I've got. I don't have any of the newer ones. But suffice it to say, great game. They add in additional interactivity with the war mechanic, which I really do not like. It's not something that's fun. I do not find it to be enjoyable in any real particular way. But I've talked about that numerous different times, so you can take a look at a whole bunch of my other videos about it. Suffice it to say, I really like this game, both in terms of the interaction. You've got the role-playing, which is actually just phase picking, what all you're going to do. But at the same time, the tableau building it's not complex, but it is extremely synergistic, because you need to make certain that the different abilities of your cards line up well. For example, you've got military power. You need to have military power to take over military worlds. If you don't have any, you can't do it. Another good thing is, if you're trying to get the produce and exchange or produce and trade machine going, you need to have the right kind of good, and you need to have the right kind of card that can take that good and actually give you points or cards or whatever it is for exchanging those goods. So the synergy amongst the cards is incredible. And at the highest level are the large-scale development cards, which or whose VP value is solely based on the other cards that you've got in your tableau. So if you don't have cards that align with it, then it's just a complete waste. And why would you do that? There's no point. So that's the main reason that I have this at number 1, is not only the expansions add a tremendous amount, which is great to see. Even if I don't really like the war mechanic, they add a lot of other really good stuff. I love the synergy amongst the cards within your tableau, how they interact with one another and how they work, and really the fact that if you don't do it well, then you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot completely. and there's really no saving grace for it. And the other thing is the interaction amongst the players being that relatively heavy, trying to read the other players to see what they're doing, where they're trying to go with it, so that you can either counter or just piggyback to get the best thing possible. But either way, it's a tremendously fun game. I absolutely love Race for the Galaxy. Relatively easy to learn, very quick to play, tons of fun. Go out and do it if you haven't done so already. Race for the Galaxy, my #1 Tableau building game. So that's it for me, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite Tableau building games. Again, I know that this is kind of an interesting category and different games do it in different ways, but that is the main reason why I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this. What do you guys think of the games I picked? Do you have particular favorites? What do you like or not like about them? Are you one of the people who views these as like the multiplayer solitary thing, where you feel that there's not enough interaction amongst the players and you're just sort of sitting there doing your own thing and it's just not fun for you? All of that kind of stuff. I want to hear everything you all have to say, as always. You know, that's what I'm here for. I want to hear what you guys have to say. But once again, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so very much for watching it, and I will see you next time. Thank you all again for watching my video for my top 5 favorite Tableau building board games. Like I said, this is a relatively unique one simply because this is more of a very strict mechanic rather than like a general board gaming category. But with that, as always, I'm very excited to hear your guys' personal favorites. Do you like a different way for it to be integrated? Do you like it to take sort of a back seat in a game? All of that kind of stuff. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. With that, as always, I've got several of my playlists linked up at the top of the page so that you can see more of my work. And if you want to see more of me in the future, you can click on that big giant subscribe button. With that, thank you very, very much for watching this, and I will see you next time.